hand. You choose a non-basic land card from it. That player discards that card. So we're harkening back to Shaheen's fake out where he thought seize and tried to take the land.
We have a good explanation for you. So when we were talking about Draco Yoo-Hoo, what is that? Well, so one of our people on Twitter calmly mentioned, well, that's like regular Yoo-Hoo, but for dragons.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah.
I guess I missed that interaction.
So we have, once again, Daniel Signorini is going to be on the draw. Remember, he snuck in as the 8th seed into the top 8. Not so much snuck in. He drew in, but knew he would be the 8th seed. Hasn't mattered much. He has yet to... Sorry, he lost game 1, was able to win back both of the ones against Daniel Signorini. He's on a 4-game... Or against Zach Mullen. He's on a 4-game win streak right now. Taking the second team round.
Daryl's getting a free brainstorm here off of the Sylvan Library.
Yep.
And we've got a...
There we go.
There we go. And there sitting next to Daniel is the head judge of this tournament, Aaron Stickney. He's a level 2 from Roanoke, Virginia. Head judging a 286-player Legacy Open. Doing a great job. Thanks a lot to Aaron Stickney. Thanks to all the judges this weekend. Our head judge on Saturday was Eric Smith with a 664, I believe, may have been the final count.
Yeah,
Standard Open yesterday.
Standard Open. All right.
And we're off. Shaheen Soorani, Underground Sea. Daniel, Polluted Delta. Possibly getting the same. Yep. That one's signed by Rob Alexander. I also want to throw a shout out to the artists who were here this weekend. We had RK Post all the way from Seattle. He's been traveling a lot. Cynthia Shepard and Noah Bradley were in the house.
All right, so Daniel Signorini leads off on what has been nothing but the breakout card of this tournament, Deathrite Shaman. And Shaheen going to battle it back with Stoneforge Mystic.
So both of them with their signature creatures here.
Yeah, Shaman, while it's been a great meta call, and I actually think on its way to certainly being a legacy staple, has been great for him in a lot of matchups, especially the Rug matchup. Here, it's more of just a Birds of Paradise, I would say. It will have obviously extra value in certain aspects.
It can kind of disrupt the flashback of Lingering Souls.
It can just, Lingering Souls. Shaheen has 3 Snapcaster Mages. Certainly is not a dead card, but not the powerhouse that we've seen it in some other matchups.
Yeah, but not going to do much against a Batterskull, which Shaheen is on pace to drop into play on turn 3.
Right.
So Daniel's going to ponder, looking for some other answer for the Batterskull and or Stoneforge Mystic.
So, yep. Ponder, he's debating here. He still has 3 cards. We'll see the decision makes. Remember, he will have access to 2 more mana this turn. So if he draws something like an Abrupt Decay and wants to get rid of Stoneforge Mystic, that'll be a line that'll be available to him.
Daniel Signorini, pondering, keeping them on top of his library, getting a little tongue-tied here.
Yep, second fetch land, so more fuel for Deathrite Shaman in such a long matchup. I mean, so here's I think the cool part about Deathrite Shaman is, lots of times Birds of Paradise cards don't need to be tapped every turn, especially in a format like Legacy, where you aren't really curving into high things. So it only has limited activations, but that's almost all the activations you need in the game. By the time you're on turn 4 or something, that's not what Deathrite's supposed to be doing anymore. So he does have the 2 mana, and it looks like it will probably be either Tarmogoyf, Abrupt Decay. Yep, Abrupt Decay will come down first for the Stoneforge Mystic.
Okay, so Shaheen's going to have to wait a little bit on his Batterskull. I think the cool thing about Deathrite Shaman is the art. This guy's like holding the skull. He's kind of like the guy in, what was it, Hamlet? Alas, poor Yorick, holding the skull.
Yeah. Administering death rights, as it were. So, second Mystic for Shaheen. Just, these cards pretty strong in the matchup. Signorini hasn't really had a particularly aggressive start. This deck, though it is a Delver deck, it is a little less aggressive than what we remember seeing out of Rug Delver, where they're really frantically playing 1-drops and wastelanding. Though he still does have the full set of wasteland.
And also has the capability of getting aggressive with the turn 1 Delver we saw in his quarterfinal matchup against Zach Mullen. He played a turn 1 Delver, flipped it on turn 2, and just kept swinging away and put a lot of pressure on Zach. Relevant because Zach was unable to draw cards with Gristlebrand once he snuck it into play. Alright, so more fetching. More fuel for the shaman. And what are we going to see here? Possibly also more fuel for a Tombstalker.
Right.
Daniel's got 3 of those in his main deck, and we have not seen him play one yet in the top 8.
Right, so it's not so much the ponders that Shaheen Soorani is worried about. If the game, he has the Stoneforge, and it looks like it's resolved here, so Shaheen's game plan is to make this equipment, which Signorini can't really permanently deal with. I think as long as Shaheen feels his life total is safe, he probably feels like he's winning this matchup. And right now, Daniel, the only source of damage he has is Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, Shaheen is under no pressure whatsoever. He's gonna execute his artifact plan in the next few turns, his equipment plan.
It really shows off the power of Stoneforge Mystic here.
And he may go with some kind of discard spell just to see what Daniel's doing so he can tailor the plan. Double the Deathrite Shaman, Shaheen untaps.
Right, so 4th land for Shaheen. He has Batterskull and GT in his hand right now, along with some counterspells to back it up.
Just gonna say go.
So, for those of you remembering, Dan Signorini is a former SCG. This was not his first SCG Legacy Finals. His first SCG Open he won was with the Team America deck. That was the Legacy Open in Washington, D.C.
2010.
Yeah,
that was
2010.
Another huge tournament.
Yeah.
I believe that was the largest standard open of all time at 692 players. The Legacy Open somewhere in the 280s to 300 range.
So now, just updating, updating his deck for he and Alex Hatfield together, updating that list to make it new with Return to Ravnica, and clearly successful as he's in his second finals now.
Of 2 of the largest Legacy Opens of all time. He will have dispatched many an opponent.
And we have Tarmogoyf made now.
Now Shaheen's going to think about countering the Tarmogoyf. Fetching an Underground Sea, so looks like he's representing just traditional counterspell here.
Alright. Yep, end step into play, we'll get, we will get, actually just not end step, we're going to counterspell on the Tarmogoyf.
And can Daniel counter back? No. Tarmogoyf is countered.
And Tombstalker now delves away.
He's going to delve away 6 cards, exiling them.
Yep, he's probably wants to be careful on what he keeps here. It's going to affect the size of a Tarmogoyf and the amount of fuel for Deathrite Shamans. Looks like he wants to make sure there's enough lands that they can activate, so he's kept a land and spell in graveyard.
So Tombstalker is a 5/5 flyer from Future Sight. His special ability is Delve.
It can become cheaper for every card in the graveyard.
You can exile cards in the graveyard.
For every card in the graveyard he exiles.
As additional cost. Or to reduce the cost, I'm sorry.
It's very similar to Convoke in that sense. When you declare it, you say how much you're delving.
Yeah. This was one of, 2 or 3 cards in the set with Delve.
And there was a Logic Knot, and then there was I don't remember its name, it was a common kill spell for non-green creatures, I believe.
Yeah. Death Rattle?
Possibly, yeah, that sounds about right.
This mechanic possibly from the future.
Yeah, it turns out it wasn't, or Hasn't happened
Whoa.
yet. I mean, I suppose you can never say that.
Until Magic the
Until Magic.
Gathering ends.
Well, no, then it could come back, and it could be the new mechanic.
Maybe Delve, we'll see Delve and Gatecrash.
It could possibly be a Dimir mechanic. Anyway, back to the match here. So we have this, the Batterskull poses a very big threat here, because Shaheen can link it with the GT in its hand, and therefore and then take down, if he wants to take down the Tombstalker. In the case, he's not very worried about it. Instead, he's going to just make 4 spirit tokens. He's doing that without getting rid of priority, so the Deathrite Shaman can't get rid of them. He's fine right now, not taking down Tombstalker and making the GT equip play, simply because Shaheen's at 18 and Signorini can't really attack without a more lethal counterattack. So Tombstalker, really neat for how cheap it is as a card. The 8 mana casting cost often gets cast at between 2 and 4 mana.
So, what did Daniel just do with his death rights right there? Did he remove 2 lands, or did he remove 1 land?
A land and
mana?
activated, yeah. Yeah, Shaheen is now down to 16, so he took a land, and he took Shaheen's counter spell out of the graveyard.
Yeah, you're absolutely right here, Matthias. The Tombstalker, if it attacks for 5, it's going to leave Daniel open to get attacked by all those spirit tokens and the Batterskull. 5/5 flyer standing by as a glorified blocker.
Yeah, and not even that for long, Shaheen can move that Batterskull over to a spirit token if he chooses, and then suddenly it'll be, he'll have his own 5/5 flyer and potentially 3 more of them. As we saw last round, the bug decks having a lot of trouble dealing with Lingering Souls.
So Shaheen activates Stoneforge Mystic to sneak the GT into play. It's the same mana cost, but it plays around counter spells. And he's going to equip on the Germ, yes. Double checks, thinks about it, and decides that's what he wants to do. Germ attacks.
Alright.
No.
And Abrupt Decay is going to go on to Umezawa's GT.
Okay.
And that means that Tombstalker will be free to block the Germ token. Yeah. And it does, but not before Shaheen gains 4 more life, putting him back up to 20. So,
and Daniel, once again at the end of turn, thinks about...
Yeah, using 1 to exile land and the other one to use the ability. Really what it seems like Daniel needs right now is he needs to develop a long-term game plan. But right now he's really doing a good job of flanking Shaheen's threats, but the problem is I'm not really sure how this board's going to get better as time goes by for him. Shaheen wasn't able to attack Daniel, Shaheen was able to move his own life total up to 20, and Daniel not with a great way to counteract that yet.
Daniel ponders, and we'll see if he can find a game plan here. Shaheen's game plan is probably to equip the Batterskull to one of his spirit tokens and just attack and trade a spirit token with the Tombstalker. It's not a bad game plan at all. So Daniel didn't like what he saw. He's going to shuffle for his ponder.
So looking at Daniel's list, you have to wonder what it is that Daniel's going to be digging for.
Now, draws in the dark.
Because he doesn't actually have a spell that deals with Batterskull. Like I said, very similar to Brian Bronduin. The only way he can deal with Batterskull is if Shaheen were to bounce it and Daniel can win a counter war over it on the way back down. And because there's 5 creatures in play, it seems very unlikely that Shaheen will bounce it without the help of Stoneforge Mystic, making it uncounterable. So I guess the long-term plan if Daniel wants to answer here, what he's going to have to do is first kill Stoneforge Mystic, and then find a way to take care of each spirit token without Shaheen drawing another Lingering Souls.
He's not going to have enough time for that.
No, probably not. So once you realize you don't have enough time for that, then what you have to, I think the game plan starts to change. It's deny lifelink for as much as possible and try to burn him out with Deathrite Shamans. Yep. And the problem is that he's going to need a kill spell every turn to execute that game plan. So it seems like just in his 75, Daniel doesn't really have a way to accomplish what he needs to.
5, 6, 7 damage in the air. And gaining 5 life. Unless Daniel has an Abrupt Decay, which I guess he doesn't. So activate Deathrite Shaman. Doing something. Gaining 2 life.
Alright. So, yeah, Daniel managing to mitigate the damage being dealt here, but Shaheen's life total still heading in the wrong direction. And Shaheen now can afford, he's going to Force of Will the Brainstorm.
5 mana hardcast Force of Will using those 2 Deathrite Shamans. Make sure you exile 2 lands. Yep.
Alright.
So Force of Will, on the Force of Will, Brainstorm resolves. And he needs some kind of answer here.
Yeah, and
to the Spirit Army. It's an army. It's a 1-card army.
The 1-card army.
Off
Yeah.
of Lingering Souls.
Lingering Souls. Yeah, that's just really hard. So, yep, Shaheen swinging in again, just with a Spirit token. So the second, the Tombstalker, able to control the pace at which the Daniel's getting hit, but
still takes 5.
That'll drop him to 6 life, and without help, well, Deathrite Shamans can help, but the biggest issue is the lifelink on the Batterskull. We're not for the lifelink, the Shamans may be able to erase what's going on here,
right.
But there's, yeah. So like I said, if there were a way for him to deny lifelink, a sacrifice effect, he would have a game plan here, but I don't think there's really much he can do. And Shaheen inquisitioning Daniel Signorini, sorry. And he'll get a daze and smile there on Daniel's face, and he knows, okay, yeah, that card's not particularly live right now. He knows the direction the game's headed. He's gonna swing all out. Yep, Tombstalker has to chump block there. Daniel goes to 3. Shaheen goes to a much larger number.
27? And re-equip. Deathrite Shamans are gonna do some work here. Gain some life. Not very many creatures, so deals 2.
Alright, and that'll be the concession. So Shaheen Soorani up 1-0 over Daniel Signorini.
Oof.
So,
Lingering Souls.
Yeah, Lingering Souls, I think one of the things that you're noticing as they're watching Shaheen, who, by the way, has had to battle through now on his 2nd consecutive bug deck, is that Lingering Souls is really good at dealing with the general bug strategy. Both bug decks have had a very difficult time dealing with it. And so when we look at these breakout of bug decks, and ways to fight it, one of them might be Lingering Souls.
Yeah, and Daniel does not have the Engineered Plagues that we were talking about earlier with Brian Brown doing, so he's going to need to find some kind of other answer to Lingering Souls. Meanwhile,
we have our last question. So thanks, by the way, for those of you sticking with us. Our questions so far have been on rares from Return to Ravnica. We're going to stick on that theme. We are looking for a different rare. This one is in some of the sideboards in our top 8. It's not in either of our competitors' sideboards right now. So it was in the Dredge side. It was in the Dredge player's sideboard. at the very least.
Okay.
So we are
and
the.
it's from Return to Ravnica.
Well, it's from Return to Ravnica, but has also previously been printed 3
reprint.
times. So we're looking for what? We're looking for a reprint rare. We're looking for a legacy reprint rare. That is a legacy staple reprint rare.
Okay.
It's been reprinted 3 times and is currently in Return to Ravnica.
Do you want to offer any other hints? Do you feel that's
Well,
enough?
sure. We'll
Maybe
say
what sets was it in?
its first set was Saviors of Kamigawa.
Oh, I remember that set.
Okay.
It was a.
So
it was okay.
that'll be our hint if you remember that one.
Okay.
All right.
So,
So with that, we'll bring you back to our match, Daniel Signorini.
well, let's remind people
okay.
how they can win.
Oh wait, how can you win this?
Hashtag SCG
Yep,
Premium.
that has to be on your tweet.
Hashtag SCG Premium. Tell us what reprint rare that was in Saviors of Kamigawa and Return to Ravnica
Among other sets. Yep.
Among other sets, is featured in some Legacy sideboards today.
All right.
And if you have the correct answer, you might win 12 months of StarCityGames.com Premium.
All right. So there are some Kamigawa cards in here, not from Saviors. And Umezawa Jite is in Signorini's sideboard. That one, though, unfortunately not a reprint.
From Betrayers of
Betrayers,
Kamigawa.
right. So we have, what can these players do on the board? And one of the things I'm noticing from Signorini is he still is, I would say, ill-equipped to deal with Lingering Souls and Batterskull after board.
Well, the GT you just mentioned would be one way. It's a repeatable creature removal. Unfortunately, he's playing against a deck that has a GT of his own, so it could get legend ruled.
Right, so I think what we'll see from Signorini is we'll probably see the GT boarded in.
Mm-hmm.
We may see these 2 Jace the Mind Sculptors also come in the matchup. Simply, that's another they would represent another angle which Shaheen would have to watch out for.
And the Maelstrom Pulse, that is a 1-card answer to the 1-card army.
Right, so the Maelstrom Pulse probably also being used as a possible answer to Batterskull, though Shaheen's careful, he won't actually let that happen. Daniel would hope to back Shaheen into a situation where he'd have to allow the Batterskull to get pulsed.
Right, so in game 1, Shaheen, knowing Daniel's main deck, felt it was okay to go with all 4 Spirit Tokens, also because he needed to play them out before Deathrite Shaman got rid of the card.
So on Shaheen's side Shaheen's sideboard, he does have a Supreme Verdict in the sideboard. And outside of that, I'm not sure there are too many cards he's actually going to be boarding in right now. He has a Force of Will, but it's not like he's not playing against a combo deck. He could board an Inquisition, which wouldn't be terrible.
The Sword of Feast and Famine.
Oh yeah, sorry. The Sword of Feast and Famine will certainly come in against a deck which is aggro of black and green creatures. Sword of Feast and Famine does a fine job.
Perish is also another singleton that is good against green decks.
It's good against green decks, though he has to be careful as there's only 7 green creatures in Daniel's deck. Just the Glyphs and Deathrite Shamans.
Okay.
Alright, both players already having started the game, so a turn 1 Delver Secrets from Signorini.
Shaheen says Island Go.
And Shaheen has a turn 2 Stoneforge. No flip off the Delver from Signorini.
And he put the card on the table and kind of almost drew it into his hand before, I think, looking at it.
So possibly they're discussing as to whether or not he can...
Yeah, I don't think it was a spell anyway.
Yeah.
But
it's one of those things where you catch yourself like, whoa, oops, I was supposed to wait. Okay, it's not a spell, never mind.
Daniel's going to want to be careful about that. This late in the day, you don't want to make a mistake like drawing a spell and not revealing it for Delver Secrets. Shaheen, Stoneforge Mystic, on turn 2, on schedule. He's going to go get his Batterskull. Same as the first.
Alright, so yeah, Shaheen was really happy with the way the first game went, as he'll be very content to make game 2 go the exact same way. So what Signorini is going to really need to do here is, first step 1 is to get this Delver flipped. Let's get a clock going.
Step 2, question mark.
Step 2, not let Batterskull get into play, and probably the easiest way to do that is kill Stoneforge Mystic. That said, or what he could do if he's kept him to Turox in, he can cross his fingers and hope to him to Turok the Batterskull, which actually in his deck is one of the best ways for him, one of the easiest ways for him to remove a Batterskull. So there he end step killed the Stoneforge Mystic. Missed with Abrupt Decay, he missed on flipping the Delver for a second time. He's going to wasteland Shaheen off white.
So no him, but Sylvan Library.
And this is one of those situations I would say where the Bug Delver deck's doing a really good Rug Delver impression. This is the kind of start you always see out of Rug Delver. It's, you know, a turn 1 Delver, turn 2 Waste, blow up your guy, Sylvan Library. Usually, you know, the Delver didn't flip, that's regrettable, but the rest of it, he's really trying to just keep Shaheen from establishing a board presence.
So Sylvan Library is an unusual at the beginning of your draw step trigger. So that's going to happen after the Delver trigger and the upkeep, but he's going to be able to set it up possibly for the turn after that to be able to flip his Delver if it doesn't naturally happen on this next turn. Shaheen, once again, after his first Stoneforge Mystic is killed by Abrupt Decay, has a follow-up. So now he's searching for a second piece of equipment.
The second game in a row where he's got that double Stoneforge start. This time, I would say, first of all, he has the Maelstrom Pulse, and Signorini has the Sylvan Library, which I think may help him. You know, he's still ahead right now. He just needs to stay ahead.
Okay, so this is very important here. When you have Sylvan Library, even though it tells you to draw 2 additional cards, you want to keep the 3 cards you drew this turn separate in case you want to put some of them back. If you draw them and combine them with your regular hand, that's going to be a problem.
And he did do that? Is that what I'm doing? I don't think he kept extra ones. So a swing there drops Shaheen to 14 now. Signorini actually did keep all 3 cards. So you now add 11.
Likes all the cards. One of them is Ponder. So he cleared the top of his library. Now he's going to look at 3 more.
What I think he wants to do is he wants to dig his way to something like a Goyf or a Delver with another instant on top. You know, he really just wants to speed up his clock as much as possible now. Or at the very worst, draw to an Abrupt Decay.
Yeah, he's keeping Shaheen off his mana. He used a Wasteland to keep Shaheen at 2 lands. Now let's see if Shaheen has another. He does.
So he pondered and had no play. Really represents Abrupt Decay. Possibly could. I'm not really sure what else it could be.
Now, if it was Abrupt Decay, he would have killed the Stoneforge before it went active.
Yeah, interesting. Alright. So Shaheen just will pass the turn. He opted not to play Lingering Souls there. So 3 more looks from Signorini. He already knew a couple of them from the Ponder.
He put all 3 back and then draw one of them, so...
Yep. Alright, so Signorini at 11, but all of his own doing. Shaheen Soorani likely soon to be 11, and that was another Wasteland there, just trying to keep Shaheen on the back foot. Shaheen floats the mana off the Wasteland. Signorini moves to combat, so in response, Soorani will Brainstorm. Soorani really trying to find a Swords to Plowshares here. I don't believe he's been successful yet, but you know, certainly that's what he's hoping to get.
He's got some time though. He's going to sneak a Batterskull down here.
Right.
And then be able to gain 4 life a turn.
Yep, so Signorini in the play, that's the play he's looking for. In response to Stoneforge Mystic, you know, nab your Batterskull play. Now, fortunately for Soorani, he has a second piece of equipment. He'll get to have a GT as a result of Signorini doing this. He won't on the other, and he'll be able, if he spends his whole turn, he'll be able to equip GT and trade Stoneforge Mystic actually with both of the creatures on Daniel's side of the battlefield.
So, usually with Stoneforge Mystic against potential Vendilion clicks, you want to do it when they're tapped out so they can't do this play. But Shaheen could not main phase his Batterskull into play because Daniel had revealed a Maelstrom Pulse off the Delver secret, so he couldn't expose the Batterskull to Maelstrom Pulse. So he was forced to go for it end of turn, and Daniel had the click in response.
And Daniel deciding which card he wants to take. I mean, the play certainly, he knew both of them were there, so certainly, I mean, this is the situation he wanted to be in. The problem is that, yeah, if Shaheen puts GT into play, he can untap, equip GT, swing, and Shaheen will probably have to trade that with Vendilion Click. And then the two
And the
GT
two
counters will
counters.
get rid of everything else. I don't believe
Right.
Signorini has another creature.
But he's got an active Sylvan library, so if he lets Shaheen have a Batter Skull, the Batter Skull is just gonna
Win the
batter
game.
away, and
Yeah.
Shaheen's gonna gain life.
Yeah, Shaheen knows Signorini has the Maelstrom Pulse, so he won't expose
Right.
it.
Well, so, okay, does Daniel want to leave Shaheen with the Batter Skull, let him get one hit in with it, and then Maelstrom Pulse? I think letting him have...
Take away the Batter Skull. Shaheen draws a card off the Maelstrom Pulse, and
resolve the
ability
Stoneforge.
puts GT into play.
So here we go, he's going to equip the GT,
Yeah, almost certainly.
the Stoneforge Mystic, and attack.
Yep.
He's committed to this line. Trade, 2 counters.
And those are both going to use to take out Delver's Secrets or Insectile Aberration. So now Daniel needs a threat. Remember, Shaheen has a Lingering Soul, so he'll be able to reload very quickly here. Signorini with a removal spell for the GT, but the bigger issue is that Signorini's clock was destroyed there.
His clock was destroyed. There's still a GT on the board that he's going to have to deal with. He doesn't want to have to use that Maelstrom Pulse. If he has an Abrupt Decay for it, he's going to need to use that because he wants to save the Maelstrom Pulse for the Lingering Souls tokens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Maelstrom Pulse is a very strong card in this matchup. It's one of those few, or at least very valuable commodity. Shaheen, it's one of his only answers to Lingering Souls tokens and Batter Skull, which are Shaheen's 2 best cards against Signorini.
Yeah, he needs to be patient here with his Maelstrom Pulse. The GT is not a threat currently without a creature in play, so he can let that be for a while.
Right, and Signorini cracking a fetch land overheat. So getting himself a fresh 3 new cards off for next turn's Sylvan Library. He does need to find a threat though. And it doesn't have to be too picky about what the threat is, because with the Sylvan Library and the cards he has in hand, he can play defend the game defend the threat. You know, he'll be pretty good at doing that. And it looks like he's found one, and it's going to be a Tarmogoyf. So right now we have instant, land, sorcery, creature in the graveyard. And not artifact yet.
Batter Skull is on the bottom of the library.
And Tombstalker, so Signorini actually just going full throttle in. He needs to be careful he doesn't shrink his own Tarmogoyf, so he's going to try to get rid of duplicate copies of card types. He's going to need 6 cards though, so he doesn't have too many options along those lines.
If he can leave a creature...
So he left 2 lands.
Oh no, there's the Stoneforge.
Yeah, creature, instant, sorcery, land. So the Tarmogoyf's 4/5.
Yeah,
still.
Shaheen has one of each copy.
Alright, Ponder. So because of the large army here, so Shaheen has to see whether or not he boarded in Supreme Verdict. So he did see one in his sideboard.
Or just a Swords to Plowshares.
Even a Swords would do it, yeah.
He needs to chain Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah, or a Swords and a Snapcaster will work. So, you know, saying he needs 2 swords sounds like a pretty big game. It's not actually so unthinkable. First a Ponder, then a Brainstorm here will help him find them. The danger is that if he brainstorms here and doesn't find what he's looking for, he probably doesn't get the game either way then. He's going to instead buy himself a turn by casting Lingering Souls for a pair of chump blocks. It's not... Daniel, because Shaheen's at 11, Daniel can't actually pulse both the tokens yet. You know, he only would swing for 9 if he did that.
Right. Again, pays to be patient with that Maelstrom Pulse.
Right.
He should just accept the chump blocks here, yeah. Because it's possible that Shaheen maybe will chump block with one and leave the other to try to get GT some more counters. So yeah, declare the attack. See what happens first.
Right, the question is, how many ways does he have to get 2 more damage? And he's going to go for declare attackers. Yeah, both. He thinks both are fine. The bigger, and Shaheen's only going to... Interesting choice for Shaheen, whether he wants to block one or both. The bigger problem with blocking one there is that Daniel gets to... I don't know. Now he's at a life total where a Maelstrom Pulse is a lethal spell.
Mm-hmm.
And his own GTA, the Legend rule of the GTA, really strong from Signorini.
Yeah.
Now Shaheen's life gain engine is gone. He's kind of on... I think seems like he's on Supreme Verdict or Bust at this point. Yep, Artifact brings Goyf up to a 5/6, so it's possible that Signorini missed a point of damage there, but not too many. Shaheen has Jace now. There's just a backup plan because, Jace unsummon will keep him alive for a turn.
Jace unsummon, yeah, not only will keep him alive, but...
It's possible that Daniel can't keep recasting Tombstalker.
Yeah, he's got 4 lands in play and at least 3 cards in his graveyard, and he's got his Sylvan Library, so I have to believe that he's going to be able to find a way.
Right, so Spell Pierce on the Jace the Mindsculptor and Shaheen with no... And Planeswalker, so... Ooh, that's actually pretty interesting now. Goyf has become... If he had Legend rolled the GTA before last combat, now that Goyf would be lethal. And he's going to use Sylvan Library.
Well, he's gonna Maelstrom Pulse the token at this point.
Almost certainly. Oh, he's going to Jace unsummon the token. Brainstorm from Shaheen.
Shaheen's gonna fight on.
He does find the Supreme Verdict, but it's a little too late. Daniel Signorini takes the second game. In the finals, we will be going to 3 games. A tight match there. Shaheen looked like he had the early edge, but I kind of think off the back of Sylvan Library, Daniel Signorini was actually able to pull that one out.
Yeah, just getting a lot of card advantage there. Was able to put out multiple threats. Tombstalker and Tarmogoyf, both giant monsters, and Shaheen was not able to execute his equipment plan.
Yeah, he was the patience there on the... I really like, there was this combination of really fast aggression. The very first Sylvan Library, take 8. But then after that, just the patience with what he was able to do. After drawing 2 extra cards, he didn't cast anything main phase for 2 full turns, just wanting to make sure he got the Vindiling Click on the Batterskull.
Yeah, that was the key play. He made the right choice there, even though it cost him his board at the time. It
cost him his board and all the tempo he'd worked to establish. So he kind of just regrouped, reloaded, and was able to push through.
But after he made that trade, Shaheen was never able to get GTA going again. So here we go. 1 game for a trophy. I can't imagine what that feels like. I've played, 1 game for 3 packs at F&M.
And to do that's still super stressful.
It was very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the higher stakes change it really can be nerve-wracking. And so going to A3, I don't think there's not really a play-draw dependent, hugely play-draw dependent on their sideboard choices. Obviously, I think, Daniel's deck's much worse on the draws. We saw there that turn 1 Delver, despite the fact that it was a little reluctant to flip, so much stronger when he can follow it up with, series of Wastelands, Abrupt Decays. Shaheen will get that extra turn, which will be very important. Both these games, I think, worthy of noting is that Shaheen's had the double Stoneforge Mystic draw in each game, which is exactly where he wants to be against the Delver deck. Obviously that's something which he can't count on every game, so he may have to if he doesn't get that draw again, he may have to more carefully plan a strategy to dodge around Bug Delver. Yeah, same start both games. Turn 2, turn 3 Stoneforge, getting the equipment going, and yet 1 game he wins, the other game he loses. Right. Alright, so once again, for those of you, we are in the Game 3 of the Legacy Finals here. Star City Games open in Baltimore.
And it has been a long day. We're past midnight here. These guys have been playing since 10 a.m.
Right.
On Sunday. We are now into Monday, technically, in Baltimore. So they've been playing for 14 hours. And Shaheen was playing yesterday in the Standard Open
So
as well.
Turn 1 Tundra from Shaheen will open himself up to possible Wasteland, but Signorini will have Deathrite Shaman. So I don't believe Shaheen with... Yeah, this is going to be a Stoneforge this hand. It's actually also a little Mana Light. He does have the Brainstorm, which he's going to do main phase to avoid getting dazed here. Or counterspelled, or spell pierced, or something.
He wants this to resolve. He needs this to resolve.
Right, he's found the fetch land, so we'll be able to fairly conveniently work his way up toward Jace mana. And he's going to go for explosives on 1. Possible daze, see if it resolves. Does. And he'll pass turn.
Alright, so Shaheen with explosives for 1 is going to threaten to take out the Deathrite Shaman. And it also puts the brakes on Daniel's plays. He cannot double up on Deathrite or play a Delver into this board right now.
Right, the threat of Engineer Explosive and then not using it, probably more important than the fact that Engineer Explosive than that it can be used. Right now, Shaheen has a hand that can easily race Deathrite Shaman, so he can keep it on the board, not answer Deathrite Shaman, but at the same time stop Daniel from playing more cards.
But you have to watch out for Abrupt Decay.
Right. Well, yeah, so there is then that Abrupt Decay possibility with Signorini, however, is just going to play Cast Him to Turach on Shaheen. Remember, Shaheen has his hand... does have a certain card in here that he really doesn't want to have get hit.
Of course, you
always double
roll
sixes. Alright, so 3 and 5. They are a counterspell, and I can't see the last card.
No, you just moved it farther away.
Yep. Alright, well, we'll let you know when we know what that one is. And Stoneforge Mystic. Wow, so I didn't realize that Shaheen had the Stoneforge right away.
So he must have drawn that off the Brainstorm.
Right. So pretty good there. He didn't hit the Mind Sculptor, but I think hit the next best.
Sure, yeah. But second best, Shaheen would obviously prefer to keep first best, which he did, so Daniel ponders and passes the turn. Shaheen plays Polluted Delta. Immediately cracks. Engineered Explosives, getting rid of Deathrite Shaman.
I think what he's worried about is that he doesn't have an answer to a Jace if Daniel has sided one in. If he leaves Deathrite Shaman alive, Daniel could just very easily slam a Jace there and pretty much win the game. Which is why, though the original plan was to really milk that Engineered Explosives, once his counterspell was gone, that was no longer an option.
Daniel is main phase brainstorming here. Looks at his full grip.
Yeah.
Puts 2 cards back. Underground Sea into Tarmogoyf.
Alright. So, can Shaheen now, with his 4th land, he's going to go for the finisher. He has Jace the Mind Sculptor. If Daniel has a daze, that'll be pretty poor for Shaheen. He doesn't really have to play into it.
He's all in on this right here.
Yep. There may be a daze here, and the reason that there could be a daze is there hasn't really been a spot where, since turn 2, there's been a really good spell to daze from Shaheen. So if Daniel has one, you know, and he's going to go Force of Will, pitching something blue. And that
6/7. Wow, yeah, we've got the Engineered Explosives.
Yep, so 6/7, so huge Tarmogoyf. This is the thing where Tarmogoyf really is at its most unfair. It's when he's just 6/7 for 2.
On turn 4.
Yeah. Definitely. So, and Shaheen pretty dejected that one didn't resolve. And he'll fall down to 13.
And Daniel is going to continue to play these cantrip effects.
Yep. Delver's right where it wants to be. It's in the protect the threat mode of the game. It's got a great threat. It's got enough mana. It's got an opponent with few cards. Shaheen only 2 spells left.
Protect the Tarmogoyf.
And Daniel exiled a Brainstorm to his Force of Will even.
So he's cast 2 Brainstorms and a Ponder, and he just exiled a Brainstorm for his Force of Will.
And I think this comes down to that Hymn to Turok. I think it maybe even hit the best 2 cards that it could have. If he has a Force of Will, it's probably, yeah, the 2 best cards.
The Counterspell.
And the Stoneforge.
Mm-hmm. Well, Shaheen's not just going to give up here.
No, absolutely. He has Supreme Verdict, for example. The bigger issue isn't so much that there's a Tarmogoyf there. Shaheen can pretty easily answer Tarmogoyf. The big issue for him is that Daniel has about twice as many cards as Shaheen right now.
Shaheen casts Snapcaster Mage. Daniel peeks over at the graveyard, says it resolves.
Right.
Flashback Brainstorm.
See Lingering Souls, Brainstorm, and Supreme Verdict.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got some options.
He's got the Vindicate in his hand, so...
Yep, he has a Vindicate in his hand. He also, then he's going to put the Verdict on top of the deck. And he does have the mana to cast it, provided he does not get Wastelanded here. So interestingly, he tapped leaving Caracas up instead of leaving a blue up there.
Well, he had to Snapcaster Brainstorm.
Oh, right. Never mind, that would be exactly why. I think that's a double blue spell when you do that. No legends in Daniel's deck.
Daniel's got another Ponder here. I think he's pondered or brainstormed on every turn.
Yeah, and that is, the beauty behind both those cards. They're so powerful. They're such low investments, but really, make you draw so well.
Yeah, just chaining them one after another.
So, the draw that Daniel, whether he knows it or not, is looking for is Wasteland.
So with the Wasteland, he can take away the Supreme Verdict option.
Right.
But Shaheen can still go with a Vindicate on the Tarmogoyf to keep himself alive.
So we see Polluted Delta from Signorini. Attacks. Yep, Shaheen will chump block. Kind of all in on that play. And Daniel wisely passes the turn. What Shaheen will probably do is not... I don't even know if he's going to play that very first. I think he's just going to play Lingering Souls. Chump block 1. Chump block 1.
Buy himself 2 turns.
4 turns. And Spell Pierce for it. That's going to hurt.
But that's why you will possibly want to use the Supreme Verdict. He still has another turn. So...
Right, next turn he probably can't go for the Lingering Souls plan anymore.
Yeah, he has to go for the Supreme Verdict.
Right, just because it could be a Force of Will. There's too many things that could make it go wrong. So as much as he wants to make that Supreme Verdict play as late as possible, Daniel's going to force the issue pretty quickly.
And Daniel's not going to commit any more threats to the board.
Another
at this
man,
point,
so now
is he?
an insurance policy on his mana base here, as it were, so that a Wasteland doesn't just get him.
We may see Daniel add something like a Deathrite Shaman.
Oh, him. Alright, well, that's Inquisition and Vindicate, both gone.
Okay, but Shaheen wisely brainstormed and hid the Supreme Verdict on top of his library.
Right, still in awkward position though. Signorini with 2 cards, Shaheen with 0. Can he get Signorini to commit another one to the board? No. Just gonna have to miracle the Supreme Verdict. Or top deck it, as it were. And alright, so Shaheen is actually down to 7 right now. He took a hit off that Tarmogoyf there. And Signorini plays another Tarmogoyf.
Well, now Shaheen is forced to flashback the Lingering Souls, make 2 chump blockers.
Like with no cards in hand, and Daniel's going to commit the lethal creature to the board here. Reason being, we know Shaheen put back 2 cards with Brainstorm. The second one is probably a dud. It was the one he didn't want, so that main phase fetch line. I think
Not sure what's going on there. Daniel was
Daniel
shuffling.
accidentally shuffled one of his own cards from his hand into the deck. Unclear. We'll let you know what happened here. Both players are playing a pretty friendly match here. I don't think that, there's not going to be rules lawyering here. I think Daniel basically said, no, it was the right card. Shaheen takes him for a word on it. So not a creature. Signorini, it's even, for Shaheen, it's even worse. It's a Sylvan Library.
So, Sylvan Library, last card in Daniel's hand. Shaheen now knows that the coast is cleared for his lingering souls.
And the problem is that Shaheen's behind. He's going to have to win a top deck war, and he's going to have to win a top deck war when his opponent has a Sylvan Library.
And 17 life.
Right. The life part, probably surmountable, but the fact that his opponent is going to just draw that much better than him every time, way worse. And he acknowledges it, and the first thing he does is Snapcaster and vindicates Sylvan Library. Unfortunately, did that vindicate moves Tarmogoyf to lethal territory?
Yeah.
So we have enchantment, we have
the only thing we're missing is tribal.
Everything but tribal.
So now,
remember, there is an excellent.
He top decks a lingering soul. So
wow.
Now
he's probably gonna flash. Yeah, we'll see if he wants to flash back. Probably no reason not to.
He's dead to a Maelstrom Pulse anyway.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a huge Tarmogoyf. Yeah, our die doesn't actually go to 7/8 on Tarmogoyf.
Yes, the Tarmogoyf is a 7/8, one short of max.
Been dealing click during the draw step. And he's going to get a ponder. I think
what do you do?
Oh, you take it.
We hear laughter from the feature match area.
I think you take it. You'd rather have a random card than a ponder.
You'd rather have him have a random card. No,
they disagree. That's, I don't know. But the thing is, if the top card's better than ponder, you probably don't want to give it to him anyway. And Shaheen will keep. So, Shaheen clawing his way back into this, once again on the back of Lingering Souls. No. So he taps the white. Daniel Signorini jokingly reaches for his V-click, saying, oh, wait, bounce my V-click? Yeah, that's fine. No, it was actually swords the Tarmogoyf, not bounce the V-click.
But I still think he should have left the Caracas untapped. Because if Daniel finds that Maelstrom Pulse for the spirit tokens, or at this point, even the Abrupt Decay, Shaheen's only defense is to bounce if any other click, so taking down that shield is kind of taking a risk here. He does have 7 life, but alright, well, Daniel has drawn a wasteland to take out the Caracas option.
And huge, wow, what a turn of events. Shaheen Soorani at one point on his last leg, then in conjunction, first hitting the Snapcaster Mage, which he buried, then hitting the Lingering Souls, now appears to be turning the game around and pulling it out.
It was that ponder. He let him have the ponder.
Right.
He could have V-clicked the ponder away off that ponder.
I think you're supposed to take the ponder there for sure. But now
Shaheen set up Source of Plowshares into Stoneforge Mystic. Who knows which one of those cards may have been, the third one down.
Right.
Over that ponder.
So Signorini, could deal 7 with a Goyf here, but not too many cards here that are going to help him. I think
the tables have really turned. Shaheen, this is
yeah, Daniel's going to need to draw, for example, right now, his own Jite would be probably a great draw. And he doesn't have it. And
this is an amazing comeback by Shaheen Soorani. He was dead to any removal spell at certain points here.
He says, checks his graveyard. And that'll be 3 damage. Signorini down to 20. 2 counters on Umazal's Jite. He's going to re-equip it. Pass the turn. This is now Soorani's game to lose. And Tarmogoyf is another, well, what used to be lethal Tarmogoyf, now with a life gain, no longer a lethal Tarmogoyf.
It's good, it's decent, but I don't think it's good enough.
So 2 spirits are going to swing here.
Shaheen's going to get 2 more counters.
And I think he's going to move
He
that.
pumps.
He's going to move another, guess another Stoneforge Mystic. Yeah, Daniel throwing his hands up. That's going to get the Batter Skull. I was going to say Daniel still had a Maelstrom Pulse out, but I don't even believe that's true anymore.
No. This is a stunning turn of events here.
Yeah.
Daniel
The
had...
re-equip onto a Spirit Token did... Yep, and so Shaheen still only has 2 counters on that.
Show me that card.
Yeah, it gets the Batter Skull with a top deck Timber Rock. It appears to only still be 2 counters on the GT. Now with
2 more counters.
Up to 4. So actually, Signorini has about 1 more play with which he could draw a Maelstrom Pulse or some equivalent, or maybe perhaps his own GT. Once that GT hits 8 counters, then it can...
he's 1 damage short.
He's 1 damage short of just killing. Right now he's just 1 damage short of killing Signorini. So he's at this... And once it, this is the last non-lethal turn. Daniel can...
Shaheen's going to double check his math. Because if you can kill him, you want to kill him. I mean, we saw players messing up with Keswick Wolf Run. Make sure you count how much damage you can pump in.
He's going to do the whole 8 power worth of pumps to put Signorini to 2, getting 2 more counters on the GT.
Right,
so the reason it's good is because the 2 counters ensure that he's not dead to a top deck removal spell. But that even if there is a removal spell, he has a lethal, a GT of his own. He has a lethal swing next turn. Delver Secrets, and there we have it. A huge comeback for Shaheen Soorani as he defeats Daniel Signorini 2-1, becoming our Star City Games Legacy champion here in Baltimore.